Big friends, welcome back to RodTalks. If you have not done so, I need you to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel because it's always going down. Big friends, I'm back with another episode of Rod Talks, and today is going to be a special episode. I got one of my really good friends, Lyanne, in the building, and we are going to be talking about education. People, get your school bags out because school is about to be back in session. Ready or not, here it comes.
Here it comes.
Lyanne, school is about to open up. One thing I always tell people is that one thing nobody can take away from you is your education.
Very true.
So it doesn't matter how much education you have, whether it's elementary, primary school, high school, junior high, college, university. Once it's in your brain, it's there.
It's there.
So I'm so happy to have Lyanne on the show today. Lyanne is a teacher, and she is going to be a future lawyer in God's timing. So, Lyanne, my question to you is, what made you decide to get into teaching? What made you know, you wanted to be a teacher? How did you know?
I've always loved education, loved learning, and I like helping people through that process. So for me as a teacher, I see my role as more of like a facilitator for learning. So when the kids come in, they're on this learning journey, and my job is to help them discover the curriculum, but then also discover who they are as people as well, which is really gratifying. So I get to see that growth from September when they come in all the way to June, but then also beyond, right? When they graduate from grade 8, the kid that I met in grade 4 is completely different. It's really cool.
So you get to see the evolution of the children as well. So Lee, how has it been teaching during the pandemic? Are you in school? Is it online? How is it going?
So I've been in school and online, kind of flipped back and forth last year. Honestly, Sherrod, I consider it to be an adventure. Every day that I wake up, we don't know what's going to change. Depending on the numbers, we don't know what's going to happen, what new policy and procedures are going to be in place to keep us safe. And then on top of that, we're supposed to help teach these kids. So it's been a lot, but you kind of just take every day one step at a time, take it in strides. And I tell the kids, it's like, guys, it's like a game. We're in a video game. Right? Just, it's an adventure. Take it for what it is and kind of, keep it as a memory that you're going to have forever.
But have you seen a difference between the students who have been coming or attending class in person opposed to the ones online?
So I've only really taught kids who are in person. Okay. And then the same in-person group I had when we flipped online. But one of the things that I did notice about those kids is they're a lot more resilient. They really had to push through this year. So that's been really fun.
Yeah, so the students they have to push through because that's the only way they're going to learn. That's the only way they're going to continue to maneuver and to advance. So we definitely have to make sure that we give the children all the attention that they require. So my question is, what would you say to children who are tired of Zoom or they feel like they're zoomed out? What would you say they should do in order for them to be successful at school?
It's a really good question. Take breaks. So I tell teachers and students it's okay to go slow, to go fast. So take your time, slow it down, make sure that you are good. As a student, as a teacher, make sure that you are okay. Take frequent breaks. The work will always be there, but sort of chip away at it in your own time. Sort of have a steady schedule. So you could technically be online in front of that computer the entire day. If you're learning online and then doing your homework online, that's a full day of being in front of a screen, plus watching TV and playing video games. So I always encourage my students, take some time, go on a picnic, go have a lunch picnic with your family in the park.
And what would you say to encourage parents who have actually become teachers at home? Some of them didn't even finish high school themselves, but they are back there trying to help their children to push through. So what do you have to say to the parents who is trying to make it?
Good for you. Kudos to you. I can only imagine what it's like. I'm not a parent, but interacting with some of my parents from my classroom, you guys are it's very overwhelming to have to teach and manage your own work and whatever else you have going on. And sometimes there are multiple kids in the homes, multiple grades. So I guess my advice would be, again, go slow to go fast. Realize that you are doing a really good job. Be responsive to the needs of your child. So if your child is tired and you're tired, don't keep at the same work. Take a break, walk away, come back. Your teacher will understand. You're learning through a pandemic. It's more than okay.
Right. And my question to you is, how has the adjustment been for you preparing to go back to school in a few weeks' time?
This is really bad. I'm literally enjoying my summer. I'm enjoying my summer I'm taking my own advice. I'm trying to be in the moment. So this summer I made sure I thoroughly relaxed and rejuvenated. And getting ready to go back to school. So teachers start next week, Friday, and my board we go back. So just looking at things like safety protocols, making sure that all those sorts of things are ready. But I'll start thinking about that.
So what tips would you give students going back to school this year?
So a lot of kids are learning about, like in our board, we talk a lot about growth mindset, and I think that's something that's probably province-wide. And that's this idea of no matter what comes, making sure that you keep at it, don't give up, never stop trying. Having a growth mindset towards your studies as opposed to having a fixed mindset, which is kind of like, oh, I can't do this, this is stupid, I can, I'm over it. It's really important to have that growth mindset. It's going to help you through a lot of the challenges. We know that this school year, again, it's not going to look like last year, but it's definitely not going to look like pre-2020. So being open to whatever comes and kind of working your way through it will be very, very important.
And how have you been adjusting to this new normal?
That's good. Like in terms of the classroom, in terms of my practice and my teaching, I'm very hands-on in my classroom. And so being online was definitely a challenge. A lot of the activities that I would normally do, I couldn't do. I'm not really a super techie teacher. But in the same way I encourage my students to have a growth mindset, I too have had to implement a growth mindset and really embrace technology. So this is for parents as well, like looking at different apps and different programs that students can use outside of school and within the classroom while they're online learning has been very helpful.
That sounds really good. Yeah. And so my next question would be in regard to like protocols with COVID-19. So does the students have to have the mask on the whole time?
That's a very good question. So these are things that we don't know.
Yet.
Yeah, I won't know until I go back on Friday. I'm assuming they will, but I don't want to speak on that.
Okay.
I don't know what the protocol would be.
Yeah. So guys, as we already know, COVID is still rampant. As much as everybody might be turning all the way up, summer is hot, but we got to remember that COVID is still around, so we got to make sure that we take every precautionary measure to ensure the safety of ourselves and everybody around us. So my question is, what do you see the socialization of people looking like? Because people aren't having that interaction.
That's a very interesting question as well. Time will tell. But I think that, as you were talking about evolution before, I think that as we adapt to this new situation, we'll find different ways to keep in touch. So like in our class, we talked about during social distancing or during the lockdowns, kind of how we can maintain a state of community in our classroom. Because that's really important to me. And I was surprised, I thought the kids would just sort of be isolated, but they have Discord, they have this thing called Discord, and they all added each other to Discord.
So it's a game, or?
I think it's like a chat or something, like a game board chat, but I don't know. It's way beyond me. But they all added each other to this platform, and they were all talking, and they created a sub for only our class. And they invited everybody. I wasn't moderating it or anything. They just took it upon themselves to do that, to keep in touch with each other, right? So they'll find ways. It's just to encourage them, for the parents and for the teachers, to encourage them to find new ways to keep in touch, and making sure that they're checking in on each other, all those pieces. It's really important.
So next question, what would you say to somebody who says they think they want to become a teacher, or they feel like that might be a field for them? What would you say they should look for, or what advice would you give to them to be okay, you actually could be an educator?
That's a good question. I guess you're planning on going back to teachers college, right?
It was a thought. It was a thought, but I don't know about it. The students are not ready for me because it's going to be discipline. Okay, you got to pay attention. Get off your phone. This is not the time.
Yeah. Personality is really important.
And I feel like my personality is too big for the classroom. Me and the students will not be able to fit inside the room.
That's awesome. No, that's a good question.
Yeah, so so what made you decide, because I know that you wanted to get into law as well. How did you know that teaching was where you wanted to be right now?
That's also another, we can just have back-to-back really good questions.
I got the questions and I'm waiting for the answers, friend. Come through with them.
For me, I love being a part of students' learning journey. I like the process of seeing people learn. I also am really into politics and citizenship, and so I love
come through, lawyer, come through.
I like seeing that in the classroom and kind of what that looks like in the classroom. So that's what I personally got into education. That's sort of my angle in my teaching and what my classroom and my teaching philosophy kind of centers around those beliefs. But for anybody else who wants to be a teacher and getting to teachers college, you know, if you're passionate about children, children and youth, and you want to be a part of helping kids learn. As a teacher, it's not always about having all the answers. I feel like sometimes you feel like you need to have all the answers because you're the teacher. But if you kind of understand it in terms of like collective knowledge and wanting to be there to learn alongside students and having that sort of learning-based lens, that's a good place to start. As well as like just like volunteering. So when you volunteer at church and youth and like children's church, all those sorts of things will kind of help you know like, yeah, like I really like doing this and maybe I want to make this a profession.
You know, a question just came to me, like how do you keep boundaries with the students? Because you're almost like a therapist in a way too, because you're with the students sometimes more than their parents, and you kind of know what they're going through. Like as a young teacher, because you look good and the students might think that you and them are size and you're surely not. How do you keep those boundaries there?
So being very explicit. It's really important to set expectations with kids, whether it's in the classroom or at home. It's kind of just like, these are the expectations. And sure, you can come to me and you can tell me what's wrong, but know that there's a line here and these are the expectations. And I think so far in my teaching career, that's really helped for me in terms of building meaningful relationships with my students, but then not having them cross the line.
No, that's very good. And my question is, do you see that there's a demand for more teachers?
Oh, yes. There's always a demand for more teachers.
So you heard it here first and live. Teachers, we need you. You need to rise up like a mighty roaring lion. You got to rise up because you guys are so important. And sometimes I know teachers don't get the appreciation that they do deserve because you do leave a footprint and you do leave a mark on every student that comes into your classroom. Lyanne, thank you so much for coming. But before you go, you got to give us some final thoughts. What are some final points you would want to leave with us today?
Well, thank you for having me, first and foremost. I guess to all of your listeners, all your viewers, heading back into the classroom, parents or students, K all the way to 12, university and beyond, just have a great year. Know that it's going to be a year where we're going to expect the unexpected, but we are resilient. We have that growth mindset, and we are going to push through. And it's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
Alrighty. Thank you so much. Big friends, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, because it's always going down.